Welcome to Road to Redline, the #1 Porsche and Car podcast celebrating the people and the stories behind the world's finest sports cars. Road to Redline is presented by YouTuber and magazine editor Lee Sibley, serial owner and columnist Joe Williams, and 993 owner Andy Brookes. Three enthusiasts on a mission to open doors and bring you the best stories, secrets, and exclusives from the world of Porsche.
I'm sorry if there's any issues with the sound on this particular episode. We had a few microphone noises and some Zoom issues. Good evening, all. We have Jonny Hart from Classic Retrofit and also Chris and Ben Meller from 1511. We are talking 914s, or is it 914s? What do you reckon, Jay? What's the right way?
I've always been a 914, but yeah, we can be a 914 if you like. I don't mind.
Okay, we'll stay with the 914 tonight. So yeah, redefining the 914 in two different ways. We've got Jonny is doing an electric conversion on his 914. Tesla power, Tesla batteries, lots of other whiz-bang bits and bobs. So it'd be good to get an update on where he is. I believe the conversion's all done now, as far as the actual running gear is concerned. So it's a driving car. He now has it back. Because it was at Vintage Voltage, which have a TV program that he had an episode on his car, which was quite a good watch. So look that up. Then we have Chris Meller and Ben Meller from 1511. You may have seen some pretty fancy renders that have been doing the rounds on Instagram of a 914 or 914 that's been stretched and bulbous arches, bigger wheels, sort of modernized. Looks pretty amazing. So we're going to get the backstory on that, find out what's involved in the actual redesign of that car and how far it's gone. So let's get the guys on. Good evening, gents.
Hi. Good evening.
I think what we'd like to do first is hit Jonny with how's it all going? How's the 914?
Yeah, it's going well. So it's back from having the sort of heavy lifting done in terms of the electric conversion. So it essentially moves under its own power, under its own power. Its own power being 42 kilowatts hours of LG Chem batteries and a small Tesla rear drive unit.
Yeah. How does the conversion go?
I mean, I think what sets it apart really is it's not so much of a conversion as more of feels a bit more integrated than that. You know, a lot of the guys that you see on the TV are, you know, essentially putting motors through adapters onto original gearboxes.
Yes, yeah.
Which is obviously a totally valid way of doing a conversion, but I preferred to sort of eliminate, you know, the old gearbox and go for the direct drive. So I've gone for the Tesla rear drive, and that's a different ball game because we're talking about, you know, 300 horsepower, and all of a sudden, you know, the 914, you know, has some weaknesses. So a lot of the work has actually been in designing a sort of a multi-purpose kind of cradle, stroke strengthening, kind of almost like a cage that fits under the back of the car. So that allows us to mount the motor, support the batteries, but also tie the rear suspension mounts together because they're quite a weak point.
Right.
So that's all sort of custom built, you know, metalwork under there, and then we've also got some parts that, you know, you can get anyway because of 9146 racing. So for example, you can buy the inner wing strengthening panels for the back.
I watched the episode, the Vintage Voltage.
So obviously, so Moggy and his crew did the, you know, put those parts welded in the strengthening. So you got the strengthening on the sills, strengthening. Also, the rear arms are sort of boxed in, so
much stronger.
And then also, so the whole. I mean, it's probably the stiffest 914 in the world. I don't know, the 1511 one might be stiffer. I don't know. I don't know what I've done yet. But it's certainly you can shut the door with one finger and all the gaps line up, and I've had it up and down on the ramp. Nothing changes, so that's all really promising. And then we had some fun and games with the drive shafts because the parts for the 9146 are quite hard to get hold of, so you can't get the original stub axles very well or very easily. And so we've gone with a sort of custom drive shaft, which has had to be specially made and heat treated for the power, and then some sort of machining to get onto the original stub axles. It's having front and rear 911 hubs and rotors and things like that. So that's sort of that's all in the past now. That's all been done. But really, the idea of the car is to have it kind of showcase, so all the accessories that we plan to release to support, not only just 914 but also EVs in general. So
so you've got a range of products that you're doing for EVs, not just the electric air conditioning.
So the easiest one to understand is obviously we've made this product using this electric AC compressor for the 12-volt cars, and now we can quite easily adapt that technology to EVs, which have a higher voltage, typically 400 volts. And that has some interesting it has some benefits, but also has some challenges. So the benefits are that you can get a much larger capacity pump. You're not having to run quite so much current to the pump. But also in the same breath, the challenges are that if you're not careful, you can have the best AC in the world and then you'll be frozen, but you'll only be able to go 10 miles before your battery pack goes flat. So so we've adapted the sort of, let's say, the power management strategy from the 12-volt system over to the 400 volts, so it can sort of be as efficient as possible. So it will only run the pump as hard as is necessary to keep the cabin cool. And that'll be great for extending the range, but also providing comfort. So, and as far as I'm aware, nobody, not even the big players in HVAC have actually got an aftermarket system that's capable of doing that. So we're well ahead of the curve on that one.
Excellent, well done.
What else have we got? We've got a Tesla brake servo. So obviously we've got no vacuum on the on the car, being electric. So the sort of the workaround is to run a sort of a vacuum pump. But it's an electric car. It doesn't make any noise, so I don't really want to ride around in a car that sounds like a fish tank. Sort of bubbling away. So we've gone for the iBooster, which is a Bosch completely electric brake servo, and we're just figuring out how to integrate that into the car, which has some challenges as well, packaging and also electrical stuff. What else have we got on it? We've got we're messing around with electric brake calipers, so we're trying to work out how to operate a VW caliper.
Is that for doing the handbrake?
Yeah. So again, I always, with anything that we do, I always look at what's available in the market, and I sort of try and make a judgment of whether, if there is something available, whether that thing I deem to be fit for purpose. And I think because a lot of the EV conversion stuff is very, sort of pioneering, let's say, often a lot of it is, sort of knife and fork together, let's say. And it, when you start sort of pulling them apart, you realise that, these things are either not very sensible or not very safe. So we're sort of, so a good example of that is that you can buy a controller, an aftermarket controller for an electric brake caliper. That's been designed, by a guy. But in my view, if you actually look at the ones that are OEM, you find that the strategy for the brakes is actually approved by, you know, the people who make proper cars. So when you buy like a brake control module from a VW or a Hyundai or whatever it is, it contains a fully tested, you know, known strategy in there.
Yeah.
So my view has always been, well, why mess with that? If you can get that to work, then you first of all you protect yourself. You're saying, well, this is what's used on a Golf, so it's no different. So it's not always
thousands of hours of testing.
So it's not always. You have to make a decision of whether you roll it yourself or whether you actually think, no, let's trust the OEMs on this and let's try and integrate their equipment.
Is that a case of sort of test and have you just got to test stuff time in different sets of kit till you find something that works? Is it a trial and error type job?
There's a lot of reverse engineering because you can't. The downside is you can't get the data out of the OEM. So right now I have a control unit. It's got sort of 25, 26 pins on the side of it, and I just have to use my experience to go through those, take the thing apart, and actually make a judgment of what they do. Yeah. And it's not an easy thing to do. There's CAN buses and all sorts of funny things, but you can eventually figure it out if you're determined. So that's one end of the scale where you're trying to sort of work with OEM stuff, but then I'm also looking at the heating. The guys who are converting cars in the States, I suppose heating and climate isn't particularly important to them,
especially if you do it in California.
You don't really have to worry about a heater, and a lot of the heater solutions on the market, the electric ones, leave a lot to be desired, and quite frankly, some of them are positively dangerous. You talk about 400 volts and potentially 1,000 amps, so you don't really want to be messing with that stuff. So we're involved with a company who's making a full 964 993 bolt-in EV conversion.
Okay.
We're doing the entire. So we're taking the whole suit, the suitcase in the thing that controls all the heating and everything. So literally, we're taking those out of the cars, and then we're completely re-kitting everything on it to be fit for 400 volt operation, and also replacing all the old servos with new servos, and we've even got a new cabin controller for that.
Does everything actually start running on the high voltage, or does it all drop back down to 12 volt?
No. It's usually anything that's of significant current does go over to the high voltage. So things like AC compressors and obviously the heating. But when it comes to moving servos, you're down at the 12 volts. But the challenge and the thing that a lot of people don't realise is that it's quite common knowledge that the HV circuit is isolated from the 12 volts. So when you've got a 12 volt car, everything grounds back to the chassis, doesn't it? So, but if you've got an EV, you have to make absolutely sure that the 400 volt and the 400 volt ground absolutely go nowhere near the chassis because it's potentially lethal. But unfortunately, what's happening is when the 400 volts creeps into things like heating, there's some bad boys out there who haven't realised that you can't just connect the grounds together, because that's potentially a huge mistake. So, that, and it's quite difficult to do. It's quite difficult to have control of stuff and still isolate the two things. So that's basically what we're working on. We're second guessing what's going to happen with the market when the penny finally drops that all these heaters that people are selling are downright dangerous.
Yeah.
Then we can say, well, look, we've got the only fully isolated aftermarket heater on the market. There isn't one at the moment, so
it works and not going to fry your nuts.
How wrong are people getting it where they're all trying to retrofit high voltage stuff? I mean, are people literally setting cars on fire and burning them to the ground, or are they?
No, I don't think it's that. I think the actual electrification, i.e., making the vehicle move, is fairly well understood.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the accessories are not. People don't appreciate that you need to have some due diligence on those. But, you can't just sort of dive in and fit. Treat it as if it's a 12-volt system, but use it at 400. So that's where the mistakes are being made.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's because the Californians obviously 20 years ahead of anyone else converting. So they've done this well-trodden path of converting the actual drivetrain, but they haven't necessarily had to think about the boring stuff.
The heaters and the
so
all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so all of that's to figure out really.
So your car was converted 20 odd years ago, wasn't it, to electric?
Yeah.
Probably with lead acid batteries and all that sort of stuff.
Well,
did you find any horrors?
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. So it was funny enough. It did have very early lithium-ion batteries in it.
Oh, did it really? Wow.
Yeah. So the history of the car is I wasn't actually looking for an EV. But one came up. I was just looking for a 914 to probably put a 911 engine in it, and but then this one came up, and it was so ridiculously cheap and such a solid car that I ended up just buying it. And when it arrived, yes, it had a forklift truck motor and some lithium-ion batteries and some sort of 20-year-old technology. Sort of 7-segment displays for the state of charge, various, probably, I think there were 24 individual gauges for all of the batteries in the car. So you had this sort of huge board in the car. It was like sort of, like Flash Gordon with all these sort of things that you had to keep an eye on. And then the classic one was that the guy who did it had made a sort of under tray for it. So underneath so you've got an electric motor and you've got all these batteries stuffed in the engine bay, and then he put a plastic under tray underneath the car. But I think he must have lived in a sort of pine forest, because there were about 6 inches of dry pine needles and leaves in the bottom of the car. So this thing was literally
ready to catch a light.
Literally a mobile tinderbox, literally. And I removed this truffle out. I thought, oh my good God, how has anyone driven this and managed to not set fire to themselves?
Brilliant.
And the other thing that was quite amusing was that he'd obviously got a job lot of US military wiring, or he was in the military, because I used to work in defence, so US wiring is pink. For a long time, they just used wheels and wheels of pink wire. So every wire that was put in the car was pink. So you couldn't tell what anything was. And it was, nice. I took out 2 bin bags full of pink wire. Just
amazing.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So have
you actually driven it? Have you driven it in anger yet?
I've driven it up and down the road outside Electric Classic Cars, who helped us with the sort of the main conversion that you saw on the telly program. And to be honest, at the time it was on a 20-year-old, well, probably 30-year-old set of tyres on the original wheels, which I think are only sort of 155 tyres. So
did it just light those up? Was that?
Yeah, you just couldn't even set off. It was just like, well, this is rubbish. It doesn't even move. And then you realise that there's always smoke billowing out the back. So yeah. So what we're trying to do at the moment is to get all the suspension and get the 911 stuff. So we've got the wider tyres, and also I want the suspension to be quite compliant, so the thing kind of sits down on its haunches and puts the tyres on the road. I think everyone gets the 914 the wheel spin, so I want to get the weight to transfer to the back and
get the traction,
have it sort of nose up and go kind of thing. Yeah, but it's perfect. It's we've got exactly 50-50 weight distribution on it.
Awesome.
And at the moment it's sitting at 1,200 kilos. So it's basically, with 300 horsepower, that's sort of 911 weights and a decent amount of power. So yeah.
With the Tesla drivetrain over having a gearbox, I mean, should you get that real sort of linear with all the torque? Is that the idea to get?
Well, you don't have to change gear. It's effectively an automatic. And if you've been in a Tesla, you'll know they're insanely fast.
Yeah.
And Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I'm not particularly into it being super fast. I just like the idea that it's less parts. I don't want to have to worry about a 40-year-old gearbox and having to rebuild that.
Yeah.
If you're going to do a conversion, you might as well just have the whole drivetrain as simple as possible. That's my view.
I think the old gearbox becomes the new weak point, doesn't it? I mean, that's
exactly. Yeah.
Something, and then you'd be chasing down the next weak point. Yeah, it'd be the next part you break, and it was
there's another reason for doing it, and that is that if you use the gearbox on a 914, then the motor gets coupled to the gearbox, so you end up with the motor in the bottom of the engine bay.
Yeah.
So you end up with a big lump there, and then any batteries you put in have to kind of step up and go around that.
Like a bridge on the weight. Yeah.
Whereas where I've got the motor, it's actually completely under the boot. So the whole of the engine bay is clear. So it's batteries right the way down to the bottom of the car. And in fact, I've still got a completely free rear boot. There's nothing in the rear boot apart from the targa top, which gets stowed there. And I've even got half of the front boot, so I'm still
pretty useful car.
How come you didn't do it in house then? In terms of is that, I would have thought that'd be something that'd be quite easy to wheel in yourself.
It's just the electrical stuff, no problem. But in all honesty, we're just so busy, and we don't have the manpower to do all the sort of fabrication at the moment. I mean, we're looking to get bigger this year, but we had a massive year last year. I mean, 2020 was a crazy year for the air conditioning product. I mean, we sold over 200 kits. 2019 was the sort of what I call the popcorn year, where people were just sitting on Pelican parts and going, "Has anyone tried this limey stuff? And does it actually work?" And then 2020 was the sort of the odd person would pop up and say, "Yep, I've got one. Yes, it really works." And then the shops all got wind of that, and we started to get the repeat orders. So what happened basically in 2020 was we started to get repeat orders from, all the hot rod builders, mainly in the US. So what was really nice, there's an article out on the internet a few months ago, which was the 20 best 911 resto mod shops in the world. And we supply 15 of those, which was quite a nice little stat. That I actually couldn't.
So, what are the other 5 buying? Surely you need to get them in house, and
Well, yeah, I think they just haven't. They haven't woken up yet. But
can you give us a little run through who you're supplying now?
Oh my goodness! Well, obviously, at the top of the pile, we've got Singer, haven't we? Yeah. And then we've got pretty much all of the spin-offs so all the guys who used to work at Singer who've gone off and are doing it. So we've got Gunther Works.
Yeah.
We've got Workshop 5001. We've got CPR. They're quite a big shop. So that's sort of West Coast shops. We've got people like Parkhouse One in Miami. They're big shop. RS Works in Delaware, who also do a lot of work in Texas. Patrick Motorsports. They're quite a well-known outfit. I could go on. Kelly Moss Road and Race, they produce beautiful safari cars.
Must be really nice to have to know that your box of tricks is riding around in all of those. I mean, that must be
exactly. And funnily enough, what sometimes happens is I'm on Bring a Trailer. I mean, this happened the other day. I was on Bring a Trailer and I saw this backdate car. That's really nice. Yeah, that's a $200 backdate. It's like, oh, hang on a minute, that's got my aircon in it. So that's really, really nice.
I believe there's somebody else knocking on your door as well, which is our other guests that are on tonight, which we're going to be talking to very shortly.
Yeah, sure. Well, that's really interesting because it's how this has happened, because I thought I was the only person who, so I've just done my own thing of plodding along, and obviously I'm going to mop up 14 because that was, that's the obvious next move for me, with the standard 12-volt kit, as well as forget the EV stuff, but as well as that. And then, of course, I see these renderings start popping up here and there, and I think, oh, who are these guys? this is interesting. Because obviously over here, 914 is a bit of a rare beast, isn't it? I think it was only someone correct. I thought they weren't ever sold in the UK, but someone corrected me and said, no, we sold 25. So there were 25 cars apparently sold in the UK,
really?
All left-hand drive. So we've had a few chats, and I think we have a sort of game plan, and really interested to, when we finally can move around, to go and see the guys at 1511 and have a look at what they're doing. So yeah,
excellent
stuff.
Have you got anything else that you feel that we should know about the car before we go on to 1511?
I'll keep it short. I mean, one of the things that we're also, going to be putting out as a new product fairly soon is this controller that we've got on the bench here. I'll just can I get this on the bench? Let's see. So yeah, we've got this little cabin controller that we're working on. This has got a prototype front end at the moment, but essentially it's it's a sort of modern thing with buttons and various coming on. Got this all under the bench. This little 964 kit under the bench. So anyway, the idea of this is it basically can control any HVAC system from so it's all configurable. You can have multiple dampers for controlling steering the air. You can control PTC heaters for heating, or a water valve if you've got water-based heating. It's got fan control in there. It's got CAN bus on it. But I really think it's a unique product, because low volume car builders historically have always had to rely on going to OEMs for their heating controls. So, even if you looked, I think something like the Chopin 962 CR, which was the road going 962 supercar in the 80s, that used the heating controls from a Mark III Ford Escort. So it's that sort of thing. But you could do that back then because those controls were all mechanical. So you could probably fashion up something, and and the styling wasn't completely what's the word, dialed into the car at that time. Everything was fairly basic looking, so you could sort of get away with it. But now you can't do that, because if you were to try and go to any OEM car, first of all, you'd find that the styling was so screaming that car that even if you could take that panel out and use it in your own car, it would just look completely out of place. So that's the first reason you it's hard. And then the second reason is because most of this stuff is CAN bus and all the protocols are locked down. The systems are not, they're not just HVAC systems. I mean, I actually when I work with Roof, I work with the Boxster HVAC controller, and that talks to multiple systems all over the car all the time.
Right.
And to actually, I got an insight into how complex it actually is. There's no way you would get that to work outside of a Boxster. You just couldn't get it to work. Unless you've got one message saying the engine's on, another message saying this is the amount of sunlight coming in the front of the car, another saying, oh yes, well we're not in a tunnel. There's all this sort of stuff going on. That you don't realise. So what we've come up with is effectively an aftermarket solution to this. And one of the things that's nice about it is you can customise the way it looks. So the front panel can be changed and to your own design. So that's what's coming up. That's the sort of thing I'm most excited about at the moment. I've got some other stuff to do with the older cars. I've got new coils which we've designed, which will be launched probably next month. Massive problem in the market with 911 coils at the moment.
Great stuff. Good. Well, glad to hear it's all going well.
But tons of things going on, but enough of me. I think we should bring these other guys and tell them all about what they're doing.
So is Chris or Ben going to give us the rundown? It's
well, this has sort of happened a bit by accident. Our main core business is designing world rally cars and building, designing, testing, homologating. Obviously, put paid to that for a while. And during the summer, we were trying to decide what to do. And Ben had for a while a Mark I Escort, which had no roof on because at some stage in its life it had had a tree fall on it. And it had been in the container for about 10 years. And we've always been saying we should do something spare time to design a Speedster. So we took the Mark 1, which was completely rotten in the floor and everything, and basically chopped it in half, took the floor out of it, took a foot out of it, shortened it down, put the seats, the front seats where the rear seats should be, move the axle to get the proportions right, and put a 24 valve V6 engine in it.
Yeah.
Awesome. And it's absolutely fantastic. And that sort of precipitated us getting into resto mods. And Ben was saying, I really think a 914 could make a good car. And, after a few red wines one night on eBay, we ended up owning one. The 914 came back, and we started looking at this, and it's Marmite, as you know. You either hate it or love it. But it was quite apparent that there's some quite interesting lines. The car's extremely low, and the Porsche put the engine in the right place for the first time in that car, and we thought we could probably do something with this. So Ben made himself busy doing some sketches and things, and we looked at the sort of history of Porsche, what could be done. We looked at taking leads from some 911 arches, because I'm probably upsetting a few people, but I think the bulbous arches on the 9146, etc., are really, I mean, God knows who designed those, but they should have been shot. So then we started. Then you start looking at what to put in it, and the first thing was we really want a better engine. And then a friend of ours said, it's really got to be a Porsche engine, hasn't it? And he said, yeah, you're probably right. Actually, you can't. The Ford we did was a Ford engine. Yeah, and it really needs to be a Porsche engine. And then we started looking at what was available, and the Cayman was obviously. Cayman S was obviously the right sort of layout. Yeah. And then we started looking at, and became very apparent that really Porsche haven't really gone anywhere in the past 40 years, because the wheelbase and the layout and everything else was pretty similar.
Is it really?
So we the first thing we did was to buy a Cayman, rip it, just to see what it looked like underneath. And it was quite nice architecture in the suspension and engine layout and transmission layout. So we ended up building a jig on our big 15-ton flatbed to pick up all the hard points off a genuine Cayman, and then see how that interpolated into the 914. And actually, give or take, it was a pretty good layout. Obviously, a lot of the 914 has been changed. All the hard points are, nothing like a 914. Yeah. But the basic wheel position and layout, engine position, everything else is pretty similar. We've then scanned the car on 3D and redesigned it to fit in the modern suspension, brakes, engine architecture, etc. Because what is quite apparent is, in the 40, 50 years since they were first designed, cars have grown. They've got a lot bigger. Yeah. And what is interesting is that a Cayman S is actually 200 mil taller than the 914.
That's quite a bit.
Huge. Interesting.
You wouldn't really notice. So that meant that we needed to look at the wings, the wheel arches, and everything else, and certainly they needed to be somewhat more commodious to get the modern wheels and tires and everything in. So we've taken all the points of the 914 and sort of manipulated them and stretched them slightly. So the wings, instead of just putting a huge arch on, we've actually widened the wings.
Yeah, I saw that.
Have let us put. Yeah,
it's
less of a
RSR look to it.
Exactly. Yeah. So we've tried to take some leads from the RSR. Things like the Moby Dick headlights in the bottom. The old Le Mans car. And then with widening the wheel arches rather than just putting a bubble on them, has given us space to get some LED headlamps up into the arch, and a nice way of venting the rear wheel arch, the front of the rear of the front wheel arch, and taking air into the engine compartment just in front of the front wheel.
Yeah.
So it's actually working out very, very well, and we've employed all the guys who normally design rally cars into building this. So our intention is a very, very high specification, very well handling, and well appointed car. So I say it's grown a bit like Topsy, and now we're saying, well, we're going to have the instrumentation made to our design. We're going to have suspension made to our design, aircon to our design, etc., etc. So we do actually think it's going to be quite a special car.
Will the running gear still be Cayman essentially, or will it just share the engine in the final version? Do you think?
No. We're running basically all Cayman running gear. As I say, we put the hard points in to pick up the front and rear cross members, power steering. As Jonny was saying earlier, why reinvent the wheel? Porsche spend hundreds of thousands of pounds making that steering rack work, have a nice feel to it and everything else. Why take it out and put a Ford Escort in or whatever? So we've adopted all that. Some of the suspension will be rose jointed, as per you can do with a racing Cayman. The dampers will be three-way adjustable, etc., etc. But yes, basically, you could take this into a Porsche dealer's and get it serviced just as an ordinary Cayman.
That's clever. Is that I take it was 987 Cayman that you're basing it on, is it?
Yeah, we quite like that because that's just pre direct injection.
Yeah.
So we've got port injection, which makes, to be honest, tuning of the engine much nicer. The later cars are extremely fuel efficient. I wouldn't say we're not interested in that. It will still have all catalytic converters. And at the other end of the spectrum from Jonny, we're still in the dark side and pouring petrol in one end and setting fire to it.
Indeed. What's the plan engine wise? Is there going to be a build, or are you going to kind of just keep that? Is there enough power out the standard lump to run with?
We're targeting about 1,000 kilos for the car, which is sort of 350 less than the Cayman. We've got stainless steel exhaust system and manifolds, and the engine will be fully ECU and power management control. So we can do the mapping for maximum power rather than necessarily maximum efficiency and etc. So we are looking at an option of having a 4-litre conversion if required. But to be honest, I think it will be.
I don't think you'll need it 1,000 kilos. Christ,
that's right.
It's going to be nuts.
But with redesigning the car and we're putting a bag tank in it and redesigning where the cooling package goes and everything else, we have managed to get quite a lot of legroom as well, and centralise the pedals with the proper racing pedal box. So at the moment, we're really happy with the way it feels when you sit in it. The steering wheel and seat are adjustable, but it is extremely comfortable to sit in, and I'd be quite happy to jump in it and drive to Nice, tomorrow morning if we're allowed.
Superb.
That'd be nice when that happens as well.
Yeah, that steering thing is crazy, you guys. I don't know if you know this. Obviously 1511 guys noticed it, and I noticed it too. But when you sit in a 914, the steering wheel is 40 millimeters to your right of the center of the seat.
Wow. That's quite a long way off, isn't it?
Yeah, that's quite a long way. And the pedals, if you actually close your eyes and put your foot where you expect the brake to be, it's on touch. It's crazy. So we're actually moving. These guys have obviously gone one stage further and adopting the Cayman stuff, but it bothers me so much. I'm actually moving, although I've got the standard 914 steering rack, I'm moving the wheel across and I'm moving the pedals across because I don't need a clutch. So, but But it is insane, and I think what happened was they ran out of money. I think it's a bit strange if you think about it, that the 914 has a unique rear suspension, yet it has the 911 front suspension. Why? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
It's the most awkward
ran out of
driving
money
position. I mean, you just really...
It is. It's horrible.
Yeah, you just wouldn't want to own one in that position. So we spend a long time with the rally drivers, getting seat position, steering wheel position, brake, clutch, everything. We spend hours and hours and hours, and one driver will have it move 5 mil, 10 mil, this and the other. So to have it offset 40 mil just feels completely wrong.
Yeah.
But for us, it was very important to get it in the middle. And as I say, having the luxury of really forward of the bulkhead, redesigning everything, and rearward of the bulkhead, redesigning everything, we managed to get quite a lot of space in there. But I should let Ben come in really, because he's the one with the degree in automotive engineering, not me. And Ben, with some of his friends from some of the major manufacturers, are getting quite excited by this, and every day we get sort of WhatsApp messages saying, "Have you thought of this? Shall we do this? Can we do this?" And it's really exciting. Yeah,
excellent.
So Ben, have you organised some of these pretty pictures as well? Because there's obviously it looks like there's a bit of decent drawing going on somewhere along the line too.
Yeah, so I was involved in the initial sketches and the sort of design of the car. Quite a lot of the ideas on the arches and how the lights would work and that. And then we've had a friend of ours who's an alias modeler actually model the car. So
excellent.
That's where the pictures have come from. Yeah.
Yeah, the renders are amazing, aren't they?
They are. Yeah.
Yeah, really good. Would I be right in saying that the car as a sort of tub is drivable as it is at the moment then?
No, it's not drivable. The chassis is effectively finished in so much as the suspension pickups, cross members, engines in, gearboxes in, as a mock-up.
Okay.
What we're doing now is we're starting the 3D modelling on the external faces.
Yeah.
So imagine clay model. That's where we are now.
Yeah.
And once we get that done, then we'll be basically stripping it all and then going to all the panels are going to be carbon fiber.
Yeah.
And bonded onto the chassis. So when we get to that stage, then it'll be going for paint, and then we can start building.
Is all that is all the carbon fiber work done in the UK still? Is that because there's a few places that are quite good at that?
Yeah. No. I mean, we are in a fantastic position in the UK because we've got all the necessary skills and facilities here. So it's great. And I say it's just on one hand annoying that we can't build rally cars, but on the other, it's quite exciting that we're using those skill sets.
Your black book of contacts for rally building must be so valuable. With a project like this.
Yeah, we've got some great partners that we've worked with for a long, long time, and with a simple telephone call and about as well. And it's good. It's very good. But we do most of the stuff in house, all fabrication in house, engine building, transmission building, dampers, everything. Most of the fabrication and machining is done in house. So we try and control everything we can as close as possible. We don't do painting. We use Normandale in Daventry, who I think paint some of the world's finest cars. And again, Phil there is a great guy, and he's on board and loves anything like this and rises to the challenge. And we go in there head scratching, saying, how the bloody hell can we make this? Leave it with me, and it comes out perfect. Yeah,
brilliant. What about from a sort of fit and finish point of view? I mean, I appreciate, compared to years ago, rally cars now are finished beautifully, but there's a big step on to a resto mod, road going car. What's the plan in terms of sort of fit and finish and mod cons and gizmos and that sort of thing?
Well, it's got to be right, and that's what Ben's on with at the moment. What is interesting is that the scanning of the car that we do and the 3D modeling absolutely matches up perfectly. So we did look at going straight to a CAD router, a foam model, but we really do need to see the car in clay or similar, because what is apparent when we were doing Escort, we had 3 iterations of the rear bubble arch, which is a standard rear bubble arch that's been fitted to Mark 1 Escort since God was a lad, and it just didn't look right on this car, and we ended up remaking that and refinishing it just to get the look. It's very difficult, and and Ben is very good at that, because I'll come in and I'll go, that doesn't look right, and yeah, you're right. So Ben's really going to play a big part in
well, I mean, some of that, it sounds like there's a huge amount of development cost in there. I mean, have you sort of costed the project at all yet in terms of what these might end up turning out at the other end, or is it all kind of unknown at the moment?
We don't want to cost it. If we did that, we wouldn't be bothering doing it, because it just makes no sense at all. But we've got a guide price of £230,000 for the car.
Yeah.
Whether or not we can make them for that, we're not quite sure. But unfortunately, I think most of us here have got OCD, and we just can't turn anything out that's not right. Yeah. And we just will push that envelope to get it absolutely spot on, or we won't be happy with it, and then there's no point in doing it.
Yeah. Well, that's I think for a real bespoke car with the sort of level of engineering you're talking about. I mean, it sounds quite reasonable in the marketplace at the moment, doesn't it?
I think so. It's not an unsubstantial sum of money, but when you look at the amount of work that goes into it, it is absolutely huge. Yeah. Now, obviously, the first one will cost a lot more than that. Yeah. And hopefully, when all the moulding's done and finished, and the instrumentation designed and built, and there's obviously a lot of cost for things like that. Cars 2, 3, 4 onwards will start to make a bit of sense, and we've got a huge amount of interest, and
wonderful.
We've got 3 more potential orders on the books now. So.
I was going to be the next question, I think, is, I mean, it's a serious commitment your side to, commercially to do the project. I mean, has anyone put pen to paper yet? Is there orders in the book?
I'm leaving that with Ben, but we're close. I think not with Ben.
Yeah, we are close. Yeah. The first car, the prototypes, that's sold. So the guys commissioned us to build the first car. So, yeah.
I think that's the hardest thing, isn't it? Once you get one over the line and out there, then obviously more quickly follow, don't they? That's always the hard one to get done first.
Yeah, I mean, it's you've got a big leap of faith to to order a car from someone you don't know, that, and it's the first one, and etc. etc. I think the only thing we've got is our credentials in what we've done in the past, not only in motorsport, but we do concourse restorations as well as the other part of the business, I think people see the sort of quality that we produce. But I think, to be honest, when we get this over the line and they can actually see it in the flesh and drive it, and a lot of the magazines are already involved, wanting to sort of drive it and launch it and etc. I'm hoping we'll be producing a lot of them.
We didn't really touch much on history. I mean, what give us a brief rundown on what was your bread and butter stuff when the world was a normal place?
Oh, well, it is rally cars. We've been a motorsport preparation business for 40 plus years. And we've won championships all over the world. We've won the Asia Pacific Championship 3 times. We've won the Production World Rally Car Championship, won second. We've won American Championship. We were the Porsche Pirelli Cup winners in the 80s. We've quite a long history with Porsches as well. But also in the meantime, we've done classic car restorations, and recently. Ben was down at Salon Privé with a Maserati, that 1962 Maserati we've just rebuilt, and we ended up finishing second, which we were very happy with.
Fantastic. That's a tough one to take at Salon Privé, Christ.
Very, yes. And the only thing that let us down was a section of chrome that the car had never had for the past 20 odd years since the previous restoration. that we only spotted on the week before the Salon Privé. So, and that's now been rectified. But we've won a lot of championships.
Is there any cars or names you can share with us that people might know from old?
Well, Alistair McRae drove for us. We're doing a lot of work at the moment we were prior to COVID with Marcus Gronholm, who's been testing the R5 Proton Rally car that we designed, and we're just about to launch a World Championship bid when that all stopped. So, yeah, it's frustrating times, but I say that we're really excited by this project.
Yeah.
And every day I look at it and think, I'd like one of those. It's probably proof that it's doing something.
Oh, great! Love to come and see it at some point.
Anytime.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. Have we got any other questions on the 914 project? I think it's just. I think it looks amazing from the renders. I hope it.
Let's hear it, Jonny. Go for it.
I've got a question, and it really applies to both of us. How are we going to get the targa top not to leak? Because that is a nightmare on these cars. You got any ideas?
Well, the targa top on our car is actually going to be glass.
Okay.
And because we're redesigning it, it will be on a different mounting system. Apparently, someone said that they fly off with monotonous regularities. I don't know if that's true or not, but we spent a lot of time with the car. We've got a T45 structural cage inside it, which you don't really notice so much. It's not a roll cage as such, but it's a frame within that makes up a deeper ladder chassis. And also we've put quite a large tunnel through the car to take the systems, but also put a backbone within the shell, measuring the movement on the targa top. And from full stress to negative stress, we've ended up with only 1 mil of movement. So we're extremely happy with that. And I think that was part of the problem, the fact that the standard car was so weak in the centre that the targa top was giving it the hokey cokey whenever you ran down the road. So I think that if you've now strengthened your car, you might find that some decent seals and the thing's a lot better.
Yeah, I think I've got very little movement. One thing that has happened to my car, as it's just been sat in, literally in the garage, is the windscreen's just split. It had a new windscreen put on it, and the windscreen was put on there, well, getting on for 3 months ago now, and I went out last week and it's just cracked. And it's kind of, and apparently this is quite a common thing to happen on them. Remember, the car hasn't actually been anywhere; it's just sat in a garage. So that's all a bit of a mystery. But I've asked around, and a few people have just said, "Oh yeah, that happens." Any ideas?
Ben, it's a windscreen bonded. I can't.
It's bonded. Yeah. Mine's bonded. It's bonded on with
ours were on the rubber. Yeah.
Right. Well, maybe that's what's going wrong with it then. Yeah.
Maybe it should be on a rubber and bonding it in as the shell's not strong enough or the windscreen's not strong enough to stand the shell. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it could be something like that. I'll have to look into it. But they certainly throw up lots of interesting things. I was fiddling around with the door latch, so I've done the door latch is most bizarre on this car. Usually you have a rod to lock the door and unlock the door. But on the 914, you have a rod that goes one way to lock the door and the other way to unlock the door, and then a bit more to open the door. So, it all on one rod. And, I put some central locking in the car, and for ages I couldn't get the central locking to actually unlock the door without opening it as well, which is a bit of a fail. but you just, some of the engineering is really quite odd on it. You just think, why would they do that? I don't know if it's cost or whether they just thought they could be a bit cleverer than other people. I don't know.
Well, maybe, I don't know.
How do you go about, just going back to your roof question, how do you go about getting a glass roof formed? Because that's not an easy thing to get done in itself, surely.
No, we can get glass formed. We make all the windows for the rally cars. Okay. We have electric screens made for the rally cars, and we're wondering whether to put an electric screen in the 914. To be honest, we haven't quite decided yet.
Yeah.
The tooling reasonably expensive, but after that they're not particularly expensive. So
what's the timescale running in at? Do you think before you've got sort of a test car that's running around?
What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, July.
Oh, so this year?
Wow.
Yeah.
No messing.
Yeah. No, we've got a lot of people working on it. So.
How big's the team?
On this, it'll be 10.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Wow, that's good.
Serious team, yeah. Ben, maybe give us a bit of a rundown of some of these crazy messages and WhatsApps been running around for ideas, because it sounds like there's all sorts that have gone into the mix. And what are we not hearing about? It sounds like there's some clever stuff in there.
Yeah, so being an automotive design student, I've got quite a few friends that have gone on to work for Jaguar Land Rover, Bentley, companies like that have all stayed good mates. So trying to pull some of those ideas together has been good. Mod cons list probably is not going to be that long. Keep it in as a driver's car. You don't want all the accessories. We're going to go for aircon and heating, heated screen, but then it's really a gear stick and a steering wheel is all you need.
Excellent.
Cool. Sounds good.
And in terms of a driver's position, are you going to get it? Is it going to be original driver's position, or where you're remaking everything? Have you completely changed that? So is it sat on the floor? Is it a bit higher up? I mean, what's that going to look like?
Yeah, so we're putting a Recaro pole position bucket seat in there.
Oh, nice.
That's going to be pretty low to the floor. It is on adjustable rails. The pedal box, obviously, as we've said, is more centralised, and the steering wheel centralised as well. As the seat moves forward, it moves upwards. So if you're a smaller driver, going upwards as you move forwards, it's quite a reclined position, and your feet are not too much lower than where you sat. So it does feel like driving a racing car.
Nice. Wow. And in terms of the gear shift, is that going to come up on this new tunnel? Because you said that's being remade down the centre as well. Is that right?
Yeah, the gear shift's on top of the tunnel. Yeah, so that's not too much lower than the steering wheel.
Excellent. Oh.
So have you moved the handbrake to the middle?
Handbrake's electric handbrake. So
you got electric handbrake.
Just be on a switch.
Right. Yeah, in the centre. Yeah.
So when you put your order in, Joe?
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, it's all the right bits for me, isn't it? It's old styling with some Cayman running gear is
sounds perfect.
It's a wet dream.
I think it will be. I think it will be a fabulous car, to be honest. Just looking at the layout of it, and say when you're working with every day. I mean, your own kids are always the best looking, aren't they? But I do think that everything's in the right spot. And we will be able to tune it. Certainly, suspension-wise, we're very tunable. The pedal box is a bias pedal box, so you will be able to where the brake bias is. So it will be a proper driver's car. We're limiting the instrumentation just to the 3 dials that were in the 914.
Nice.
We've decided to get rid of the 3 dials that were on the tunnel originally, because we've got now a very, very nice, clean, open tunnel area that goes right the way through. But we're commissioning bespoke gauges to give us fuel level and oil pressure, water temp, etc., within those 3 dials, and you literally will be sitting in a race car. I think it'll be a great bit of kit.
Is it? I mean, what sort of size wheels and tyres are you going to be packing in today? Because I'm guessing it's been redesigned. To get some rubber on the road. Yeah,
but
they're 18-inch and they're 8-inch wide at the front and 10.5 at the back.
So still keeping a good amount of tyre wall though, not going crazy on 19s or.
No.
Yeah.
Packaging within the wheel arch and to get the required amount of lock. What is interesting with the damper system that we've designed, the actual Cayman, although it's a very good handling car, my other son brought it back from when we purchased it, and he said it's a great car. He said, but if you take off over a crest, seems to have very little wheel travel. Well, fair play to him. When we measured it, we've only got about 120 mil of wheel travel on a Cayman, which right. We've got 120 mil on our tarmac car going on bump alone. So
you're used to a bit more, aren't you?
Yeah. So we've managed to engineer into the setup about 160, 180 mil of wheel travel.
Wow.
With an 18-inch wheel, and I think the proportions of the 18-inch wheel we don't want it to look like a modern hot rod that people have been down to Halfords and bought the cheapest set of wheels they can. The proportions have got to look right.
Yeah,
and
got to have the right amount of rubber.
It just sits nicely. We can still get the travel within the wheel arch. We still get the droop on the damper without the drive shaft going down. It just sort of works, and the car's widened by about 200 mil, quite a bit. But we're putting about 50, 60 mil into the wing itself.
Yeah,
and then the balance on the wheel arch. So it does look right. I say we've pondered over this for a long time, but I think it does look okay.
Mm. So how wide is the car in total? Do you know?
1.85?
I can't remember.
Yeah, it's going to be quite wide, isn't it? Because it's already, even my narrow body 914 is still like 50 mil wider than a 911, which is quite surprising. That's why you end up sitting in such.
Being mothered by an omnibus, I think.
Yeah.
It's very wide. Yeah.
It sounds like it's actually going to be an amazing car, not just how it looks from the renders that we've seen, but actually the engineering that goes into the car is going to be absolutely spot on and really amazing.
Yeah. We hope so. I mean, it's just subtle things. We've been playing around today. Ben's been playing around with the final rendition of the front wing, and by raising the top of the arch sort of 30 mil, it just gives it such a more of a stance and things. So it's good. We finally arrived where we want to be.
Great.
Right. I think we should move on to our 10 questions, Andy, shouldn't we?
Yeah, I think we should. Are you going to go for it this week, Joe?
Yeah, I'll go for it.
Who's going to answer? Is it going to be Chris or is it going to be Ben?
Let Ben answer. I don't know talking.
So obviously
I'm too enthusiastic. That's the problem.
So all our Porsche 10 questions, obviously it's all Porsche centric. So I appreciate, some of these might apply. So if you're not sure, just pass. I was thinking we could do an update with Jonny just to make sure his haven't changed as well.
Oh no. I haven't written anything down.
That's the whole idea. I'll tell you what, why don't we'll have a quick run through with Jonny, and then that gives you a few seconds just to think about some answers, just in case.
Oh, okay.
So no pressure, Jonny. Right, first question, air or water?
Air.
Second question, favourite Porsche model?
Oh, I think the RSR.
Interesting. Favourite Porsche colour?
Aubergine at the moment.
Aubergine. Who is your ultimate Porsche icon?
I'm still going to stick with Mr. Ruff, Alois Ruff.
And your favourite track?
I pass. I don't know.
No.
Not a race boy.
And to Fuchs or not to Fuchs in relation to the famous wheel design?
Yeah, definitely 15 inches Fuchs.
You're in. Yeah. Stock or hot rod?
Stock rod.
Very apt.
That was your answer.
Narrow or wide body?
Narrow.
Cars and coffee or a track day?
Cars and coffee.
And last but not least, in a 911, would you have back seats or not?
No back seats.
No back seats. In that camp. Okay, so you've had a bit of a head start there, Ben, which gives you a bit of a chance. So same set of questions, air or water?
That's a difficult one.
No, it's not. Think of the marketing.
It's going to have to be water, but in an air-cooled body.
Yeah, we'll give you that. Very good. Favourite Porsche model?
I meant to say the 914, but I'm going to say the 964.
964, good choice. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Right, favourite Porsche colour?
The pink that was the 964 RS came in.
Ruby Stone. Yeah, that is my favourite. I reckon if you can Ruby Stone one of your 914s, I reckon that'd be epic. But
I thought you were going to say you were going to buy it then, Joe.
Yeah.
I got my pad out.
Yeah, I'll raid the coffers. Yeah. Favorite track? You must have driven a few.
Silverstone Grand Prix circuit.
Yeah, good choice. And to Fuke or not to Fuke in relation to the wheels?
Definitely Fuchs.
Yeah, in there. Stock or hot rod? That might be a daft question. You never know.
Resto mod.
Resto mod. Yeah, yeah. We need to add one to our list, I think. Narrow or wide body?
He said that before you'd even finished.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, we're quite with your one, definitely. And again, this might be an obvious one, I don't know. Cars and coffee or a track day?
Cars and coffee.
Oh, I'm surprised. Okay. And in relation to a 911, would you have back seats or not?
No.
Oh, 2 in the cab. Very good. It's always interesting with some of those answers. We've had a real mix over what we've done so far. So yeah, no, appreciate those.
Yeah. Well, I think it's been fantastic to talk to you guys and to see what's behind the render, as it were. Because I think lots of people have seen the renders, but it's really nice to hear what passion there is going on behind the scenes and how far you are through the project.
Thank you.
I think we'd love to be able to certainly see the car and maybe even get a ride in the car at some point if it's happening at some point this year. So keep us updated for sure, because we'd like to know some more.
Yeah,
definitely.
Awesome. And thank you for joining us too, Jonny. Good to hear you.
No problem.
Good to hear the news on the electric 914.
Yeah, I'm trying to work out whether I can get to Bakewell in one charge.
I doubt it.
No.
Do you get the range anxiety? Is that a real thing?
Well, I haven't got it yet.
I don't want to disappoint you, but some friends of ours with a brand new K-can, is it?
Yeah.
Couldn't get from Aylesbury to us, so that's slightly.
Oh, that is a bit worrying. Yeah.
So there you go.
Where did they go via Wales?
No. I think it was a very, very cold day, and that finished him.
Yeah, that's true. Actually,
It must have had the aircon and the heater
come back
and the radio on all at the same time, because that's what kills it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Come back to the dark side, Jonny, and put some petrol in it.
Oh, I've still got my 911. Don't worry about that. That's
good stuff. Right, good to chat to everybody.
Thank you very much.
Have a catch up soon. Nice.
Bye bye.
So that was some seriously interesting 914 chat. What do you reckon, Andy?
Yeah, lots of backstory on what's going on. The 1511 car sounds like it's going to be absolutely mega.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be an insane bit of kit. I mean, they've sort of taken a full-blown world rally car and dumped all the tech into a 914 cross Cayman hybrid, supercar. So I think it's going to be a serious one to look out for.
I think it's going to be a real driver's car. Not too much tech going into it. It's going to be a steering wheel, a gear stick, the pedals, maybe just a nice stereo, but not going too techy. But it's going to have all the right things. Suspension's going to be really sorted. I mean, basically they're looking at rally car types of suspension. It's going to be epic.
Yeah, it's going to be a impressive bit of kit. Yeah, look forward to seeing one on the road even. Yeah.
Well, maybe we might be able to get one down to our summer event. If Ben was talking that it may be running June, July time. I'm looking into something at the moment to get us all together during the summer.
Yeah, that'd be a great shout. Yeah, if they could get to our summer event. I mean, I'm still hoping now from what you said that it might be a Ruby Stone car. So yeah, let's watch that space.
Absolutely. Cool. Right. Well, let's sign off for today. Oh, I've got a couple of Patreon updates, if I may. Got a couple of new Patreons this week. Brian Duffy, who's in the US. He has an amazing looking Panamera GTS in carmine red. Beautiful looking thing. He's sponsoring us a coffee. Nice. Thank you very much. And another US listener, J.R. Tipton, and he is sponsoring us a pizza. But I don't know what you drive or where exactly you are in the US. So do let us know. So yeah, always nice to update.
We should probably reiterate, as always, if anybody's thinking about throwing out a little bit of support for the pod, then our Patreon obviously is up and running and is obviously kindly received. It allows us to do this for the love, and we're obviously looking to organise a few things in the future, which is what some of those funds go towards as well. So there'll be up and coming events and extra content. So yeah, watch this space again.
And on that side of things, the competition for the Nezumi stroke roof watch should be happening this week if Lee gets his finger out of his bum.
It is his birthday, so apparently
yeah, that's why he's not here. Actually, we haven't mentioned that, have we? There's no
I'll
dulcet tones. Excellent. Okay, guys. Joe, should I say? See you next week, mate.
Will do. See you later.
Cheers. Bye.
You've been listening to Road to Redline, the #1 Porsche and Car podcast, fueled by our generous Patreons. If you'd like to join in supporting the podcast, please see patreon.com/Road to Redline and find us on Instagram.